Hello, friends. Welcome to our feed this week. I hope this goes according to plan here. I've had to reset up my equipment, so let's give it a minute to see if it gets going live here. There we go. There we go. Now we're working. Okay, now I know that I'm rolling. All right, let me get this started. So, what I thought would be good to do today. Hey, Megan, how you doing, bud? Nice to see you on there. What I thought would be fun to do today is to look at some construction footage together, and then that way we could kind of hang out in the live chat and talk about what would we do if we were in charge of the construction that's happening right now at Disneyland. So I tracked 4 major projects that are going on in the park right now. As you know, this is the off season. So I shot some footage and I thought we would look at that together. But starting off, we can see that the Mickey and Minnie flower hearts are in the middle of Times Square, or Town Square, I should say. That's definitely not Times Square. It emotionally feels that big, but it is not that big. And it was neat to see something pop up there after we had seen the Christmas tree, the pumpkin, just a parade of things that have been going through there. So it was nice to see that pop up again. So what do you say we get started and look at some of our construction that's going on around the park? And when I do so, please, by all means, if you have suggestions or ideas of what you'd like to see, hit up the chat and let's do it. So let's get started here. So when I went to the park, I was cruising through, happy to see that there. But the big thing that I had to arrive to was Snow White, right? Like that's probably the biggest construction project that we have going on at the resort right now. All right, looks like my videos are loading a little weird. Okay, so this is what Snow White looks like right now. The scaffolding is surrounding all of it, but they had to take some of the scrims down. We've had some wild weather in Southern California the last week, a lot of wind and rain. So it looks like they've peeled the scrims down, which is cool for us because we get to see what's happening on the other side of the construction. You know, this is going to be the now 3rd time since this day opening original attraction has been reconstructed. This was ripped apart, like down to the studs, rebuilt, and now they're going in there and basically going through the entire footprint of the attraction, and then they are shrinking it up in spots to add more space. I say, luckily, they didn't decide to punch into Pinocchio and just make it one big ride. I'd like to see Pinocchio stay for a journey. And even though that's not one of the newer attractions, or I should say not one of the original attractions, Pinocchio just feels like a perfect fit in there. So what you can tell from what we're looking at is not only the inside there, relaying the show scenes. I don't believe they're going to be messing with the track. I think they're just sliding the scenes around. But they're also going to do a pretty significant overhaul to the exterior of the building. So my question for you out there is, are you cool with them changing the exterior? Like, I think many of us are cool with them messing with the story because even though we don't want to see Disneyland, not lose its scary edge because that's such a part of the movies, the story doesn't completely and totally make sense, right? Like, I think if you didn't grow up writing this, when you go through there, you're like, whoa, what did I just see? But the exterior of this building, in my estimation, I love how dark and gloomy it is and all of the trees that have grown over it. So if they mess around with the color scheme too much, are they going to try to match Sleeping Beauty? Are they going to try to go more in that direction? Or are they just going to simply keep with what they have, but just, finesse it and fine tune it a little bit? I would be interested to see how that goes. When we look at the footage that I was able to capture, you can see that they've got the whole thing wrapped around, but there's a piece of it. There's one of, look at that. There's a Jared balloon just floating right there in our face. Megan hopes that they would stay with the thematically medieval European style, like a German village, and I completely agree. Like when you look at old photos, when it looked more like a carnival, That that was not my favorite. So one of the things I was kind of curious about that they're taking over is this corner section right here. Like that's the entryway. Like that tower is the entryway into the Bibbidi Bop Boutique. And there's this beautiful clock that's on the exterior of it. And that being wrapped around makes me wonder, are they saying, hey, while we're here and we're putting up scaffolding and building these walls, should we just touch up everything in this nook? Or are they going to possibly expand this look? Is it going to look a little bit better? I've always been a big fan of that tower. It kind of feels more like the castle, less like Snow White, sort of a bridge between those two worlds, that good storytelling of all the pockets and folds in there. So there you go, done by Saturday. It's a Bavarian feel. That's the term that I was like, oh, Germany. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. But my question to you guys, while we're looking at Snow White, do you have a request? What's your idea? If you could get in there and say, hey, Kimmy Irvine, this is what I think this attraction needs. That's what I would love to see. Megan says I could see Bibbidi Boobop moving, Bibbidi Bop, I don't know why I'm adding that extra syllable in there, moving to the princess character area for more ride space. I would like that idea, keeping everything over there, but they just recently redid this shop. And I'm urging you to, especially some of the non-children carrying dudes out there, you got to pop your head into this store. It's beautiful in there. Like all of the woodwork and the light fixtures and the little like wood carved critters that are all over everything. Like it's a really, really cool store on the inside. So I like that idea, Megan. I don't think that would work because they just put more money into it. I don't know if there's space over there, but yeah, if life was perfect and you could just move the pieces around, this would feel really good over by the Fantasy Fair Princess Meet and Greet. And Snow White with a little extra space, who knows what they could work up. Like I would love to see some of the animatronics that are in the new more sort of like family roller coaster that they have at Walt Disney World, where the dwarfs can actually sing because they have those projected animatronic faces, where, you know, they can sing their songs while they're working and have a little bit more of an interactive experience. But yeah, I was interested to see that this structure too is wrapped around, and, you know, trying to figure out, are we going to get new, or is this just common sense? No, I don't think they're going to go trackless, Megan. I think that they're going to, I don't know why I'm getting that dissolved between videos. I apologize. I got a lot to figure out over here as I'm getting my setup going. So this is standing in front of the Christmas shop, my favorite shop. You can see the little sign like right down, where is it? There, right down there below me. That's one of my favorite stores. But I don't think that they're going to be removing the track. I think that the track is staying the same. And that they're going to keep that same thing. The trackless ride system, if I'm not mistaken, means relaying concrete and getting all the little beacons where they need to go. So I think that it'll probably be the same carts and ride system. Done by Saturday says, I'd love to see a little more story in the loading line. It's fun to watch the loading, but it keeps the carnival ride feeling. You know, that's a really good point, John, because on one hand, it does make it feel old and vintage, both that and Pinocchio, and for that matter, all four of them. There's sort of like a carnival type dark ride vibe to it, where you see the carts pull up, you see people get out. That would be, yeah, I got mixed emotions out in that one. That's because it's a good idea, and it makes me wonder, could it go that way? You know, there would be such an interesting different vibe if you went into story, got into a ride, didn't see the other carts coming in. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you add technology into this part of the park, it's got to be such a fine balance of ruining the nostalgia. And who knows? This part of the park belongs to kids. Kids don't have nostalgia, so do you keep it alive for adults, or do you keep feeding into the youngins that this part of the park is designed for? That's a That's a big debate right there. But yeah, you can see that they're taking all of these towers, but going back to what I was saying before, now thinking about this logically, if they are going over everything while they have the scrims and the construction walls in there, then why not that turret on the far left of our screen? So maybe this is going to thematically get pulled a little bit more into Snow White. Time will tell, and we will see, and I can't wait to find out. So great to see just all the people in Fantasyland. Like, it's just, it comes alive. All right, King Arthur's Carousel is the next item on the block. I'm going to just pause the camera right here where you kind of get an idea of just how much construction we have going on. Megan says, do you think that they're going to try to blend the villainous IP like they did with Pirates of the Caribbean? I hope not. Yeah, that would... Yeah, you know, I think that what they love about having all of their villains and the villainous IP is that it parties well. Villains love to party. There's going to be a villains night this year at the park. It's a great thing to roll out for Halloween. So I think Disney's smart and sees that as sort of a special spice. You know what I mean? If you eat it all the time, it loses its flavor. But if you pull it out every now and again, and you're like, whoa, that tastes good. So I kind of think, oh, Maleficent. I kind of think that they're going to play that role and hold back on that stuff and not give it to us all the time. I think that we will see less scariness in the attraction. So I know that, you know, probably not so many scenes of the witch. We'll probably lose a scene of the witch and gain a Snow White so that it's maybe a little bit more balanced. John says he really likes the vignettes or the vintageness of the current setup, but his daughter has no nostalgia for that part of the experience. Either way is a win. Yeah, see, when you think about it from a kid's perspective, it's like, well, they're just riding it for the first time. So it's instant nostalgia because children live in that moment. Hey, Scott, welcome to the feed. He says, I want to see multiple multi-plane projections. Why they have not done that? Maybe maybe M&M Runaway Railroad. Oh, Mickey Mouse Runaway Railroad. I'm reading your shorthand there while I'm broadcasting. Well, dude, Mickey Mouse's Runaway Railroad has got me very excited. Like, I'm so excited about that, and it's opening up out in Hollywood, and it's like, oh, 2020 or 2022 is a long time from now. Do I wait to see it live, or do I watch all the videos that are going to be popping up soon? I mean, that's 2 years is a long time to not have something spoiled, but I am dying to see that technology. And you know, Scott, they've got to be feeling really self-confident if they're finally willing to put Mickey and Minnie into something. I mean, Mickey Mouse doesn't have a series of movies. You know, when they made the move into making the new animated shorts, that was a bold move, and I think it was because they knew that their style guide and that off-registration textured look was so perfect that it was perfect enough for Mickey. So when you get into building an attraction, I think this thing's going to be amazing because they don't just put him on anything. And I think that's why there's not like a Mickey Mouse movie franchise, because what if it was a bust? You know, like Mickey's the type of thing that can only be put next to something that's going to be a surefire success. And I think that gives us an indication of how amazing this attraction is going to be, which only makes me want to watch ride-through videos even more. And then when I ride it in Anaheim, be like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. Oh, this age of the internet is so great and so horrible at the same time. Okay, so as we move over here, King Arthur's Carousel is wrapped around. Now I'm going to ask you guys this. You have to have a merry-go-round in an amusement park. You have to have an merry-go-round in Disneyland because that's what inspired the whole thing. I mean, you could argue, was it the train and Walt's Love of Train, or was it looking at his daughters on the merry-go-round? You know, chicken or the egg right there. They're both pretty significant to the equation. You know, chicken needs to make an egg, and you need an egg for the chicken. So I think that this is one of those attractions that's required to be there by Disneyland law. But can you change this at all? I mean, it's pretty perfect, right? Like, is there anything that you guys can think of that it's missing? Scott says he can't stop himself from watching the videos. I love the tech way too much. I'm right there with you, Scott. I mean, writing it is half of it. Studying it, learning, observing it as the art form that it is, that's the other half. And it might even be a 40-60 split for me. Like 60% is enjoying the technology and the construction of all of these amazing things that they bring to life. So I'm right there with you, bud, on that one. But when we look at the carousel, there's not a lot to see other than when it's completely wrapped in these tarps, just what a massive footprint that it takes over. Megan, I don't think you have anything to be nervous about the carousel, because I bet this is just a take it apart, clean it up, get it, we don't know what's not been working properly, polish it up, get it going, and just bring it back in pristine working order. You can see that they've removed the sort of the exterior there, and they have this little ladder thing to go up there, and that little device off that top spire there, that would be, like a construction harness that you could wear. Oh, 2-level? A 2-level carousel? Does that exist? Is that a thing? Oh my Lord, that would be amazing. I mean, that would have to be a whole new ride, but a 2-level carousel. Man, oh man. Could you imagine? Would that be horses on the bottom and like beautiful birds on the top? Wow, you're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind there. Jennifer says, I wish they would bring Seven Dwarfs Mine Train over to Disneyland. Also, hello from Reno, Nevada. Whoa, Reno. That's America's biggest small town, right? Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. The mine, what is it called? You have it over there for me to read, so I don't have to. The mine train. I'm really, really intrigued by that, and that might be something great to get if we get rid of some Tomorrowland. I know this doesn't make people happy, but in my estimation, at some point they're going to cut Tomorrowland in half, and half of it is going to go over to Fantasyland, because Fantasyland is the heart of the park. There's so many stories that fit in there. Tomorrowland is so hard to predict now that we have the Galaxy's Edge. That's very futuristic and space-oriented. So I would think that could be rad, and something like that not too far away from Matterhorn, that would be amazing. Maybe get that Sleeping Beauty attraction that they're building over in Asia and have the mine trains sort of, working around the backside facade of that. We just got blueprints have surfaced online this week of what the new Frozen attraction is going to look like in Disneyland Paris over in their Hollywood studios, which is a pretty rough park. So I'm all about expanding Fantasyland. But I have to say that Megan from Kansas City, congratulations Chiefs, is blowing my mind with the two-story carousel. I'm going to have to get off of here and go Google, is this a thing that really exists, or did she just come up with something genius today? Scott says the carousel was the dream, the train was the vehicle. Scott, what's your YouTube channel, buddy? That's poetry right there. That's poetry. I love that. Let's keep looking at this construction here of the carousel. And like I said, you can't really see that much. It's just, you could see it scale, but I did have to pan back over and look at a little bit more of Snow White for us there, just to see how much scaffolding is around that whole thing. Biggest little city in the world. I was close. I think at some point I have to do a video that just breaks down all the weather vanes of Disneyland, right? I mean, so many different weather vanes. Some of them have very obvious connections to the body of work that they sit on, that they sit below, but the other ones are abstract, like the boat that's above the Haunted Mansion, giving a nod to the original story, possibly for the Haunted Mansion. I think insane in the Disney vein, weather vein, is something we got to do soon. Oh, I mean, John, Autopia, as this isn't a popular opinion among some folks, but it is such a massive amount of line. I don't know why all my videos are doing that when we go into a new clip. That is something to figure out. And then here I go, pulling away. Maybe it's the frame rate. Here we go. Pulling away, you can really see just what a massive attraction this is in the middle. I mean, the Carousel is one that is kind of hard to figure out what you could do better. Now, we move over to another beloved attraction, which is the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is going through a massive refurb. I don't think anything too crazy new is going to get embedded into it, but I think they're just going to give it a nice polishing up and, maybe improve a couple things. But I have one. I mean, this is arguably pretty perfect, right? But I have one suggestion on what I would love to see them do to this attraction. You know, when you're riding it during the holiday overlay, and you come finally, you've gone down the stretching room and you've walked along the gallery there, and then you come around the corner. I get so used to seeing it with that big build out for Nightmare Before Christmas. You have, Oogie Boogie and the moon there, and you have all the characters and sort of that, layered up. And then when it goes back to regular and it's just dark there, I would love to see a show that exists there all year long. I mean, it's odd for Disney to leave such a blank space. Maybe it's like what I said earlier in the video, you leave a little something to spruce up and make it feel special. But I would really like to see something that would exist there all year long. But my question for you, how comfortable are you folks with adding digital technology into this attraction? Like, for example, in the graveyard scene, where there's that scrim that divides the graveyard. There's that mesh scrim that basically the mesh makes it look darker, making the characters on the other side of the mesh feel further and further away. If some of that back there were to become a video board, and they were doing projections and it felt more infinite, and they had smoke and different characters and different scenes, so that every time you ride it you saw something a little bit different. Are you cool with that? Do we want that technology to go into an attraction like this, or do we want them to go in there, clean it, get it squeaky clean, get everything working perfectly, and then white glove, just back on out, don't touch anything else? I think in the short term, most of us don't want to touch it unless they do something great, and then we'll love it. Scott says we need the transport tubes from Futurama. Yeah, not the noisy gas cars. Yeah, I mean, the problem with predicting technology is that you always catch up with it. So even if they did electric self-driving cars, which would be neat to us as adults that would love the idea of commuting from LA to Disneyland and not having to touch the steering wheel, but you put a kid in a self-driving car and they're like, great. Now it's like being in the car with my mom or dad driving, or great. Now it's like every other cart at Disneyland or ride system that's driving itself. I mean, self-driving cars are Rise of the Resistance. So I don't know. I mean, there is that sort of struggle there, though, that when you're a kid, it's fun to get to drive. And that's one of those emotions when you're younger that really just takes over you. And even though it's not full control and there's a bar keeping you in the middle, just that freedom of being able to drive and just, 5 years, 10 years, it's a countdown till you can get your own car here in America, because that equals freedom. So, always trying to look at everything from different generations' perspective. But getting back to the mansion, is there anything that you can think of that needs to be put in there? And Megan, don't say add a third floor. We know you're going crazy today, adding floors to everything. I don't think we can add a third floor to the Haunted Mansion. As much as I would love to, I think we're capped out with what we have there. John says, I think that they could pepper digital screens in, but he's afraid that making an effect super HD will make the non-digital effects look kind of crappy in comparison. It's right. It would have to be balanced. And so when I was thinking of digital boards in the attraction, where could it fit in? The two things that made sense to me was that opening wall that's now black, so anything you put in there would feel plus. Maybe some stuff as you're going in when they're giving you the instructions, like, going past, like, seeing the trees outside of the house, or, you know what I mean? Like, just sort of sort of like mood type stuff, or the back edge of the graveyard scene, because then it would be so far away from everything else that it would just be adding that like infinite texture of this feels like a world that goes on forever. But you're right. If you take, the wedding party scene, which is perfect with the Pepper's Ghost effect, and then you throw a couple of video boards in there, it's like all of a sudden they start really looking like mannequins. So you're right. It's one of those things where there has to be that 3 level of storytelling. There has to be something physical in front of you. There has to be a frame that is behind that, and then the digital has to exist in that third plane, because if the digital's too close to you, then you feel like you're looking at TV screens, which is, I don't think, anything that we want to be looking at. Scott says he wants to see new hitchhiking ghosts in the mirrors. That wouldn't be bad. Mixing up something a little bit different, and with using the technology that they use with Rise of the Resistance for that debriefing show, trying not to give away too many spoilers, it has only been open less than a month. Those projections could look even more real than what we get now. Okay, so when we look at this construction, I mean, they've got the whole thing wrapped around. They got it all in scrims. I don't think that we'll see too much different than the outside, that they'll just bring it back to pristine, because it's pretty perfect, right? It's a pretty perfect attraction. All right, our fourth and final thing that they're working on is the Mark Twain. I believe this one's close to being done, and then it'll be back out to sailing on the rivers of America, or cruising, I should say. And then the Columbia will probably go in there and get work done on it. This is one of my absolute favorite attractions. I'm from the Ohio River area. I grew up literally with the Ohio River being just a street over from my neighborhood, and we played on its banks and we fished in it. And I can remember being in my yard and hearing the Belle of Louisville go down the Ohio River, and the steam organ playing, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and old American classics. So this ride for me has so much personal nostalgia wrapped into it, that I'm glad that when they shortened up the Rivers of America and cut a little bit off of Tom Sawyer to make room for the Galaxy's Edge, that they actually plussed it and made it better. Everybody was freaking out. Oh, they're going to ruin the island. They're going to make it smaller. The rivers are going to get smaller. Walt's dying a second time, and all that rock work back there, and the waterfalls, and the train has now been made better. The rivers have been made better. The storytelling with the Native American Indian village is better. Like, it's all, they really do a good job of honoring their history and legacy. And I think that's why it's easy for us all to allow ourselves to love it so much. So this is just something that they're going to spruce up. But I have to ask, if you are in charge, can you think of something that you would want to do to the Mark Twain? Is there a way to plus this? Is there a way to make this better? I know something I wish they would bring back in the old original date night at Disneyland, that you could do a midnight or a moonlight cruise, and they had dancing and bands playing, and Louis Armstrong on the Mark Twain. So that would be cool if they did, maybe in the off season of Fantastic, if they were to do like a dining package where you bought a special ticket and you had to go around to the backside, and like maybe it parked and you just got to have dinner on the Mark Twain. Like, that is, if you want me to spend more money, Disney, that's something that would get me to pull out the credit card. But as far as how the attraction runs day to day, it's perfect, right? And then when you put context into things, you got to keep in mind that, a young kid growing up in Orange County in 1955 didn't get to see riverboats or many rivers. So this was really Disneyland's magic of bringing the whole world to their park. And now with the advent of air travel being so affordable, these are things that, many people have seen. But when you look at the context of putting a steamboat in Southern California, it's a pretty ambitious and novel idea for the time. Megan says dining and dancing package would be sweet. Oh, you bet. That would be amazing. John agreeing with the dinner cruise package. I mean, this is the type of thing that I dream of, right? Like, could you imagine if they like loaded everybody up, cruised you around to the backside to where the waterfall was, and then they docked the boat, aka put it in park? It would be so great. It would be so great. Scott said used to be able to watch the fireworks from the Mark Twain. Oh man, there are so many great spots to accidentally watch the fireworks from. I was just talking to a bud in the park when I was there Tuesday filming this footage, and I was telling him, one of the best places to see the fireworks from? Radiator Springs. If you've ever been on the racers around fireworks time and you come out and you do Act 1, which is that slow sort of cruise, you can see the fireworks because you're up high enough and the fireworks are straight across from where that faces. Man, you can see all of it. And then when you come back out and you do the race, if you time it right, if you get the fireworks in the beginning, at the end, when you're whipping around and the fireworks are off in the distance there, it is such an added layer to what is already an amazing attraction. Oswaldo says this should have been added to the Sweethearts Night. Well, put me on staff, Disney. You want me to plus up your events? I'll do it. I'm sitting the Sweethearts Night out. Going to be going to Disneyland next week twice. Got my niece coming in from out of town. We flew her out here. She's 10. It is not cheap to fly a 10-year-old across America from New York, I learned. But Beth and I are going to be doing the park 2 days next week, playing the role of uncle and aunt or mom and dad because there's no mom and dad around. So we're going to be doing the park with a 10-year-old for 2 days. And let me tell you, I am pumped to get to see it through her eyes. She's at such a fun age, and really just to do it in that style it'll be one to remember. It'll be one to remember, that's for sure. All right. Let's close today's video with looking at another classic, which is something that I don't pay much attention to. Yeah, Scott, it's a bizarre thing to try to nail in time, but it has worked out for me 3 or 4 times. And when I was walking around heading over to Galaxy's Edge to do the live that I did there, I just, for whatever reason, how something at Disneyland will just catch your eye. I was like, you know what? I don't pay enough attention to the island. I don't pay enough attention to it. And when you look at that rock work and you look at all the plants that they have grown around there, and then you, over the left hand ridge, you see that second level of storytelling, which is the new rock work where the train runs and the waterfalls are at. And then you look at that third level, because it's always 3 levels of storytelling at Disneyland. You see those spires of Galaxy's Edge that we can't completely see through the brush. What a masterful job they did of bringing space and a long, long time ago and a galaxy far, far away into our own personal long, long time ago in a time far away, and merging those 2 worlds together. That 1, 2, 3 that you're looking at right now, that's what makes it feel real. It's that attention to detail, that sort of building it like a almost like a play in a school where you cut things out of wood and each layer is taking you someplace different. That is so, so amazing. Oh, Megan, do an Uber on the island would be cool. I have to do a live stream on the island at some time. We for sure have to go over there and take some fares. And I can't wait for people to be like, oh, Bricky, here's $5 to go walk across the Barrel Bridge. And Bricky, here's $5 to go do this. I have an idea for the island that I would like to propose to you guys. If you were a part of Oogie Boogie's Halloween bash, the Oogie Boogie Bash, if you either went there or watched my video or one of the other amazing YouTube creators' videos, you got to see the Villains Grove, right? Where they took the Redwood Trail, did these projections, put in some music and made it really intense. Imagine that on Tom Sawyer's Island, right? Like, island's much bigger. It could be equipped to handle a lot of story. If for whatever reason Halloween lands itself back over into Disneyland, or if they want to plus up Disneyland's Halloween offerings, taking that mindset and applying it to the island for a month and a half would be amazing. Because that Villains Grove, I'm telling you right now, I will buy a ticket for opening night of Oogie Boogie. I will get there early. I will go there and wait in line because nobody waits in line for it while the sun's still up. And as soon as it opens, I will be one of the first people in there because that's one of my all-time favorite DCA experiences. Megan says, totally immersive, great idea. And Oswaldo gives me the okay symbol and nowhere to run. That's right. That island is one of the best babysitters Disneyland ever created. Throw your kids on the island. How are they going to get off? All right. That concludes the construction footage I have for you. Look at that long shot. When you look at it and get the whole thing in there. Disneyland, I love you. There you go. That concludes all the footage I have today and all the construction, which takes us right back to where we started off. We have just done a virtual loop around the park. I want to thank everybody that has taken Ubers from me, because I'll have you know through the super chats that I've received, when the channel hits 3,000, I'm at 2,950. I beg you to help me get the numbers up, because that is a very, very small number, and I'm putting a ton of work in to try to grow it. But anything you could do to help me grow the channel, that'd be awesome, because when I get to 3,000, I'm going to celebrate by having a green screen behind me, so that on the fly, quicker as news happens, I can shoot videos here in my studio, and when the news breaks, give you sort of the designer's perspective, the sort of the thought out perspective on how breaking news affects the park, affects our experiences there. And that's only going to be able to happen because people have supported the Disney Uber videos and did live chats and my other premieres that I do, because I love premiering the videos and getting to watch them with you. So I appreciate everybody that did that. When we get to 3,000, we'll celebrate by having that new feature added to the channel. And then we'll start the countdown to get to 4,000 subs and see what we can do there. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for hanging out and talking construction with me. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this take on construction that's a little bit more community activated, where we can hang out and talk about things, let me know, and I'll make this a regular rotation on Bricky Plus. The weatherman. Oh, you know I'll be pointing in the wrong directions because I cannot figure that stuff out. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it.